Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Can you all hear me?
Waalaikumsalam. Can?
Okay. Sorry, I was distracted. I was drinking my coffee.
It's okay.
That's why I don't turn on my video camera. Okay. Any burning questions from the previous session
Burning,
that you must ask? If not, you will not sleep tonight.
So far from me, no.
Okay. No burning ones, only later ones you can ask me later. Okay. Or maybe I ask you in the exam. Okay. I hope this is not the exam oriented punya class.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we go to standard setting. Actually, the standard setting. Okay, Dr. Urush is there, right? Okay, Bismillah. So standard setting is usually discussed in two things. Standard setting strategies.
Doctor, sorry.
As well. Yeah.
Can you stop the video and then record a new video? So I think it's quite easy to have two videos then.
Yes. I have stopped the previous one and made a new recording.
Okay.
Okay. Despite Farhana not reminding me.
I also forgot.
It's okay. Just joking. Okay. So we talk about strategies as well as methods or approaches. Okay. They are two a bit different actually. But we talk about strategies first. What do we mean by standard setting strategies? Have you all had a chance to read the article?
Only skim through.
Skim through.
Not
It's
enough.
Never mind. Ashraf?
The 8 steps in standard statistics, right?
No. This one is a separate article.
Separate article.
Separate article. I read in chapter 6 also.
On standard setting strategies. Never mind. What we'll do is we will talk about the important ones. This is the one we talk about compensatory, conjunctive.
Not familiar.
It's okay. Never mind. Okay. What we mean is that let's say you have an exam. Okay. You have an exam which consists of MCQ or SBA lah. And essay, and you have OSCE, long case, and a short case. Okay. My allergy is running up today. Okay, so if we say that, how do we get the final marks for the students? If I tell the students that, okay, for this exam, your overall marks will be calculated by adding up MCQ plus essay plus OSCE. This is an extreme example lah. This is an extreme example. Plus long case plus short case. Now this is what we call as a combination. So this is a compensatory strategy. Compensatory standard setting strategy. So let's say we say overall marks will have to be equal or more than 50%. Then you'll pass. So it has its. So you clear regarding this compensatory strategy?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So it has its uses and it has its limitations, its strengths and limitations. When do we use this kind of strategies, and what are its strengths and what are its limitations, or maybe weaknesses? When? Any ideas? Summative. Okay. Why do you think so?
Because this one involves specific test that created, not more to activities like that we can use for formative.
I see. So a lot of summative type of exams, huh? Single event or single session kind of thing. All right. Okay. Maybe. And it also looks at many domains, huh? This is the cognitive. This is the psychomotor. Maybe communication. So you want to use it for summative. All right. All right. Okay. Maybe. Ashraf, any ideas? When do you use this kind of?
Maybe final year lah, because ada long case kan, because ada
Okay.
the clinical years lah, clinical years.
All right. So you clinical years because all right. So maybe final hurdle kind of assessment. Okay. Uh-huh. All right. Never mind. We will leave it at that. I think basically you are correct. Okay. But what do you think is are its strengths? Maybe related to what you mentioned as the users. Try to think in terms of what we've discussed before: validity, reliability.
Maybe can lower or decrease the threats to validities.
How?
CIV
More sample.
by compensation. Yeah,
Yes.
because
Again.
because more sample here.
All right.
So-
Okay. That's the magic word. More sample.
More sample.
Increase sampling because you are combining, right? Even though let's say long case has only just 2 cases, but then you are combining it with short case and you're combining with marks of OSCE, essay. So we are saying that all of this actually is just one test. One big test with subcomponents. So sampling is very much increased. Therefore, the reliability is also high here. And depending on what you choose as a method, if you have for all domains, then you can say this is also an evidence of validity. So you have increased reliability as an evidence of validity. And you say sampling in all the domains, you can show the blueprint. That's also evidence of validity. So the strength is that it's increased reliability and validity. And any limitations or not? And what do you think if you are the student in this exam? What will happen to you?
Heavy.
Heavy?
Yeah.
Why?
So many exam. If this one is one shot, I mean in one maybe duration of time within 1 week or 2 3 days.
Okay. All right. Ashraf?
For me, it's easier to pass because there is no
Why?
because we have more exams. So let's say there is no requirement. All candidates must pass low case. If you pass other exams, but you long case, then you are fail. So I think this one is more easy. It's easier to pass.
Okay. Ashraf is thinking like a typical student. Typical student, what matters most is they want to pass, right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Farhana is actually, she is a conscientious means her conscience is very good, must do the right thing. Okay. The typical student say, I want to pass. Therefore, how will you study, Ashraf?
In playing with knowing the what is the passing marks each, and then pass your paper, and then compare how can I get which part.
Ashraf,
which part I can get. Sorry.
yeah, there's no passing mark for each paper. There's only one passing mark as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, they're comparing with past year exam, asking the senior
Okay.
how they did
All right.
before,
Okay.
and then
Yeah. Continue.
focus on what my strength is lah.
All
because
right. Okay.
because
Are
maybe
you
I'm not that good in, let's say, long case, because long case is something that is sometimes can be luck lah, because
all right?
we never know what kind of questions that will come. So
Uh-huh.
then we can distribute our strategy, focusing on things that we can focus on cognitive
Exactly.
level. So long case
Exactly.
is luck. Sometimes we prepare
Yes.
so much thing,
Yes.
suddenly we
Yes.
forget to focus on few things, and
Yes.
that questions come
Uh-huh.
in. So better safe
Alang.
than score
Okay. All right.
others lah.
Okay. So that will be the typical behavioral response to such a strategy. If we tell students this is our exam strategy, then we more likely than not their behavior will focus on their strengths, which paper they think they can score, and they are not worried about papers in which they might fail because the other papers will compensate. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
it will induce sort of negative behavior. Okay. Uh, so even though the overall reliability is high, but we worry about the effects on the students. Okay. And let's say that we think actually it's very important that they why do we include the essay, because one of our outcomes in this medical school, they want the students to be able to uh, argue something in writing. For them, that's very important, and they want the students to be able to good in their writing skills, because later on they think that will help them in their postgraduate, blah 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 blah. But they make this kind of strategy. So like Ashraf, he will ignore the essay. He said, I'm not worried, I'm not good in my writing because I'm very good in my MCQ. Alright, so I know that it will compensate. Alright, and we worry that there is increased chance of false what?
False positive.
False positive. Why, Ashraf?
Yeah, because
What is false positive? What is false positive?
we get the student that is actually not that performing, but they can simply tembak lah,
But we label them as
Good
as a
student.
competent student lah,
yes. Okay, the students are actually incompetent,
incompetent, but
but
we label them
label
as
them
competent.
as competent. That's false positive. And why can this happen? Because the students know they are good in here and they are good in OSCE, but actually their communication skills is very poor. Okay, they cannot speak, so the long case is will definitely go down. Their clinical skills also, if we take the patient as a whole, they cannot handle patient as a whole. Short case, long case, terrible. So they're actually not competent, not fulfilling all the learning outcomes, but they still can pass the exams because of this strategy. Because we say we do not uh, pay attention to the individual methods, but we will. What is important for us is the as a whole. Okay, so that this compensatory strategy, the strengths are that it's high sampling, therefore high reliability. But remember what we said, high reliability does not necessarily mean high validity.
Yes.
So there's a high risk of getting false positive results, meaning that we are graduating candidates who are not safe, but we label them as safe. course, this, like I said, this is an extreme example. I don't think any school will do like this, right? Okay.
Dr. Urush wrote something in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
She said multiple types, more pressure. I think the pressure comes, Dr. Urush, if we say you must pass all types. But if I say no, we don't need you to pass all types, but what's important is overall you must pass. Yes, and she also say if not feeling well, he might lose all marks. The chance is less in a compensatory strategy because let's say he was sick in the OSCE. That means I must make sure I do well in the long case. Or let's say I was sick in my essay. So say no problem, the essay I didn't attend because I did well in my MCQ. So that the pressure is less in compensatory strategy. Okay. So they wouldn't worry very much that what happens if I'm sick, I cannot attend, but say it's okay because I think I did quite well in the previous one. I can even relax a bit here. Okay, but our concern as lecturers is this one, false positive. As an institution, are we graduating candidates who are actually not competent, but because of the strategy, they are labeled as competent? Okay, on the other hand,
just doctor, in my university in Dublin, for first year and second year, they use this compensatory method lah.
Okay.
So that the final marks, whether to pass or then it depends on all the exams. But
Really?
then in clinical years, then it changed lah. They have this for pre-clinical years, yes, but not for clinical years.
So they are judicious in determining when they use that kind of strategy, right? I forgot that I can make automatic shapes here. Okay. Okay, good sharing. Thank you for that. So at least there are people who use this.
And it is stated in the curriculum in the UCD.
Okay.
They are using compensated.
They mentioned that.
They mentioned that in the curriculum.
Okay. One thing which I find that we can emulate in Western schools is that they are very transparent. They tell everything. Even at the risk of students misusing the information or whatever, and where is important, they will be transparent. How do I duplicate this? Yeah. Please, Ashraf. Farhana.
No, I think because the way how they brought up from children, but it's not suitable for us. If us like in Malaysia, more exam oriented and we are happy, it's like a leak question, even though it's not a question.
Okay.
But I think in Western, they think of more of the knowledge, what to do, assessment for learning.
If you go and into the website for the Royal College of Radiology, what's the code? Royal College of Radiology in UK, whatever. For the master program, they even say our passing mark, we are using what kind of standard setting method, and passing mark will be the method plus 1 standard error. They straight away mention that. So please remember, is plus 1 standard error, not minus 1 standard error.
So
it will be higher. The marks will be higher.
It's harder to pass lah then.
It's harder to pass because this is postgraduate.
Okay.
So they straight away they transparently mention in the website Passing marks will be the passing mark obtained by the standard setting plus 1 standard error. So we are more sure that the candidate's actual marks lie in between in that area. It's not giving the benefit of the doubt anymore. It's making sure that the marks are actually within that range. Okay.
Because it's high stake.
High stakes. Yes, this is postgraduate. So now let's say the same exam, MCQ here. We have essay. We have OSCE. We have long case. We have short case. Okay. Now instead of the strategy being you have to pass, we only look at the overall. I'm telling the students you have to pass MCQ separately from essay, from OSCE, you have to pass all papers like Dr. Urush mentioned. When do you use this kind of strategy? This is what we call as conjunctive strategy. Why? Because you have to pass MCQ in conjunction with essay, in conjunction with rest. That's what they call conjunctive strategy. So, okay, let's forget about when. First, we ask, what will be the strength? Is there any strength or advantage of this kind of strategy?
More deep learning.
Focus all exams.
Okay, Farhana said deep learning. Why? Why you say deep learning?
Because we need to focus, maybe if one type of test, they need to study more, focus more. So, and it's one by one. So they will go deeper for them to pass.
Okay. So we can say the standards seem to be higher, isn't it? Because students must be good in their memory, their understanding, whatever. Then they must also be good in their writing skills, their argumentation skills, their whatever skills. And then OSCE, they must be good in each of the component skills. But the overall skills also, they must be very good in managing patients from beginning to the end. Short case, they must be good good showmanship to pass the long case. Blah 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 blah. They must be good in everything. So it seems to be like it has higher standards. Correct?
Yeah.
Anything else? Advantage?
It is still more desirable, right? Because of the samples that we have is still a lot.
Again, what do you mean? What do you mean, Ashraf? Can you elaborate?
Even though then so conjunctive means that if fail one paper, then fail everything, right? Have to resit everything, right?
Yes. This exists actually.
Yeah. I think it's not fair for the student. Yeah.
Okay. Ashraf being the student, Ashraf is always the student representative because he was the student leader last time, so he's thinking about students. But for me, let's say I'm the part of the, let's say, a specialist board. I say we must make sure our candidates are of high standards. Therefore, they must pass all papers. Okay, so we use it. We use this kind of strategy if we think that each competency as measured by each of these papers are very important. Then we must demand that students pass each and every paper. As a body, as an institution, we believe that it is important for our graduates to have good overall knowledge. Therefore, they must pass the MCQ, and then they must be good in writing, because they are going to write a lot when they are specialists. So they must pass the essay. And they must be blah blah blah. So we justify each and every method. So because we are concerned with the standards. Alright? Um, but what are the limitations or the problems as one mentioned by Ashraf just now? What was it, Ashraf, that you mentioned?
It's for false negative lah, basically.
Okay, one of the risks of using this is false negative results. Okay, just imagine you're doing well in your MCQ, but suddenly on during the essay time you fell sick. Okay, or whatever, or maybe during the essay you're not that well, your emotional status is not good, you had an argument with someone, or during the long case, you got the killer lecturer and your patient was not very cooperative and there are only 2 cases. Overall you are competent, but you are labeled as incompetent because of this strategy. Okay, so one is the risk of false negative, and if you want to use this strategy, what is critical? You must make sure. Yes, Farhana?
Make sure each validity of each of the test is good.
Yes, validity of each test is good. So what happens in papers like this? Long case. Why is the compensatory strategy? What are the strengths just now? Among the strengths, increase reliability, isn't it?
Sampling.
What do you think about reliability in this case?
Will be less.
It will be less.
High validity but less reliability.
Okay, there will be problems because now each is a separate test on its own. So we must ensure enough sampling for each test. Not just overall is the sampling, but each test we must consider the sampling. So maybe we're not that worried about MCQ. We're not worried, less worried about essay. Let's say there are 6 questions, although we still want a bit more question if possible. So you have to change from long essays, 6 long essays, maybe to 18 short essays. That will increase the reliability better. You're not that worried about OSCE because you have, let's say, 20 stations, two OSCE papers. Each paper is 10 stations, therefore total of 20 stations. You're not that worried. But in the long case, there are only maybe 1 long case or maybe 2 long cases. So sampling wise, you're very worried about the reliability. Okay, and because the school says you must pass the long case separately, therefore we say this is a problem area. Okay, because you're using conjunctive strategy, and I do find this kind of rule in quite a lot of situations where the school says or the board says or the specialty exam says candidates must pass each paper separately, and I see that there's a long case there and they must pass long case separately. Have you ever encountered that kind of thing?
Not directly. Actually, not sure what's the.
Yes, Ashraf, but
No, just sharing lah. My somebody I know lah in Al Azhar University. It is a non-medical course. It's a religious course. Where the exam they don't have MCQ. They only have essay and then essay and like a long case with the chef there. And
with
it's a conjunctive
like a Viva, right?
Viva and essay, and it's a conjunctive. So end up this person has to repeat year for 7 years.
Yes,
before
exactly.
as a undergrad in Azhar. So
Okay.
yeah.
And some universities in the Middle East are notorious for using this, and I don't know. Yeah, the students are saying because they need the money. If that's true, then I'm very sad. They want more
Oh,
candidates. Keep on paying. So they call, oh,
oh,
and then candidates usually have to buy their ticket, go back to the university for exam, then go back again to the because the results take a long time. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
this
I
is
need to
also
be
a rumors in the country I studied before lah. One of the college, one of the university.
okay. Okay.
They have a lot of students, rich students lah. So
I
the
see.
passing marks is very high, and so many students has to resit again.
Okay. Okay.
Sometimes yeah, sometimes
But
it's the first year.
okay. But to be fair, I think we need to have our facts correct lah. I mean, before saying
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
huh?
It's just a rumors lah.
Okay. Yeah, they're just rumors. Okay. So this is purely conjunctive strategy. Okay. So there's a risk of false negative results and also we say sampling for each paper is critical. So there are uses of conjunctive strategy. Uh, However, we must make sure sampling is critical, and if we are okay with the risk of false negative, then we proceed. Meaning that we are conscious that we know that it can produce false negative results. However, we say it is okay. We rather have false negative than the risk of producing unsafe graduates. The example that is the Royal College of Radiologists just now, they purposely increase the passing marks. So meaning that they are okay with the risk of false negative. We rather have candidates who are competent but labeled as incompetent than the other way around. Okay. So we need to have a conscious decision like that. Okay. And of course, you might have the best way actually is to have what we call as combination
Hybrid strategy.
strategy. Yeah, hybrid. Okay. So you say there are two components in the exam. One is theory, one is clinical. Okay. You must pass theory and clinical separately. So that what strategy is that?
Separately conjunctive.
Conjunctive. Yes, you must pass theory in conjunction with the clinical. However, within the theory paper, it is compensatory. So your long case, even though there are two cases only, and short case, even though there are four short cases, two short case, or maybe just one. Okay, you have 20 stations here in the OSCE, and you combine the marks, and you say you must pass the clinical component separately from the theory component, but within the components, it is compensatory strategy. So you get the best of both worlds. Okay, you are making sure that they are good both in their theory as well as in their clinicals. Okay, but within the theory component, you see, we want reliable results, so we combine MCQ with essay. And then we combine long case, short case, and OSCE. So maybe the let's say here, this is final year exams. So we say clinical must be more. So we say 60% of the total from clinical, 40% from the theory. And we can play around in the actual combination. That 60 maybe majority or a lot more should be within from OSCE. So we say 30, 10, 20. Okay. Or I'm sure this one we need to negotiate. So because the clinicians would want more from the long case and maybe short case. They will say, OSCE is easy to pass, blah, 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 blah. So we need to negotiate this, right? So essay MCQ the same, 40% maybe equally, 20, or maybe you want to increase a bit more here and reduce this. So that one is up to you. We can negotiate. Okay? So that's the combination strategy. And of course, if you read the article, there will be some other strategies like disjunctive strategy, blah blah blah. That one I think is it sounds complicated, but there is actually variations from the conjunctive or the what's the other one? Conjunctive and compensatory strategy. Okay, just have a look at the article. Okay, any questions?
So far clear.
So far okay, okay, Dr. Urush is saying in our college we follow conjunctive. They have to pass theory and clinical. I suspect they have to pass theory and clinical, but within theory there are few papers.
Combinations.
Yes. So you see, I suspect if you say theory, but within theory there are MCQ and essay and everything, and you say we just take the overall, we just add up the marks for MCQ and theory, MCQ and essay, blah blah. That would be combination strategy. MCQs and SEQs, yes. So that's combination strategy, which is better, which is taking the best of both strategies. Okay, they are in clinical, there are OSCEs and long case. So I'm not wearing my spectacles, so I have to go. Okay, so that I suspect that's what we call as a combination strategy, Dr. Orosh. Within the components, it is compensatory, but they have to pass all components, means that is conjunctive. Okay. All right. So okay, of course there are other strategies. Please read up when you have the time. Okay. Oh no, I won't. Now I will refer to your chapter for the standard setting. Standard setting is not strategy now. It's approaches or methods, which is actually a bit different. Standard setting methods, if you remember, it is one of the components we talked about when we are planning an assessment. Okay, if you remember Ashraf when he presented his module for the general practitioners, I think for the house officer or something.
Yeah, the general practitioner.
And I asked him what will be the passing mark, and he said, "Oh, for this paper it's going to be 60%." Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What exam was that? I forgot.
Yeah. That's the one.
Was it the OSCE or something?
Yeah, OSCE.
Yeah. Okay. So exactly, this is the area or the issue that we are talking about. How much is good enough? Okay. What's the passing mark in your when you were in undergraduate, Dr. Ashraf?
50 lah. 50.
50.
50%.
Dr. Farhana?
We were only given band 1 to 5. We don't know how many percentage goes to which band. So 2 is fail.
So 2 is fail.
Yeah. 3 and
Okay,
above.
so you don't know.
Yeah, we don't know the
Okay.
percentage. It might differ,
Ah.
different set of paper, maybe different
Oh.
percentage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Preclinical
Interesting.
and my clinical years quite different.
Ah.
In clinical they use the CGPA.
Okay.
But in clinical they use this only uh, distinction,
Okay.
apa,
Okay.
pass, fail macam tu. That's like that lah.
So what were the borders of the distinction? Let's say
They can
distinction
they
and
don't give
pass
us the marks.
and fail. What is the mark here?
They
They don't give,
didn't.
huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
In
Actually,
Malaysia
it's
lah, in clinical in Malaysia lah. So we didn't
ah.
have
Okay.
the chance to know what's the marks.
Even in overseas, and when I go to the websites, everything, they don't inform actually what's the mark, but they do tell that passing marks will be determined by a standard setting procedure. And sorry, uh, it's already 12. I must go. I must go on. Okay, this issue of 50%. Okay, actually, it doesn't matter what 50% or 60% or whatever percent, but we must be able to answer why. Why 50%? Why not 55 or 40? And how do you get that 50%? Okay, so let's say a student complains and is suing the school and say I am supposed to pass. Actually, I am a good student. But they have labeled me as incompetent. This is false negative. So the court will call you and say why do you fail, because his mark is below 50%. Okay, how do you reach that 50%? And we cannot say that was it since science a long time ago. It was 50%. It's the tradition.
It's not
Uh,
factual.
that won't hold up in court. Okay, so actually standard setting is simply the method to arrive at this, whether 60 or 50. Okay, and it is a policy procedure, not a statistical procedure. You have to remember that. Okay, whatever method. So we are now going to the 8 steps, huh? If you remember in the reading. The first step is select a standard setting method. Select a method, a standard setting method, huh? So actually it is just an extension of if you remember, Ashraf said, oh, the passing mark is 60. Okay, then we say only Ashraf is saying that. Is that good enough? So we say, okay, let's have some more people give their opinion regarding 60 or whatever. So we get a group of people. Okay, and then someone will say, who are these people? Or then say we give criteria for getting this group of people. We get, they must be content experts. They must a lot of experience in teaching. They know this to do blah 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 blah. Okay, then how do they determine the passing mark? Just by looking at the ceiling and then say 70. No, okay. Let's have them look at the actual question. Someone say, oh, let them have a look at the actual students' performance. Blah, blah. So actually, it's just a documented procedure which is justified, but actually, the marks which come is actually still from the judgment of the panels. It is still a policy decision, not a statistical decision. Okay, we have to remember that. So if you use one standard set, let's say your final exam for year 5 students in 2021, you use standard setting method A using panel A. And at the same time, you want to experiment the same exam, you use another panel, standard setting panel B, and use method B. Do you think they will come, if they do it properly, do you think they will come to the exact marks?
Maybe no.
No. No, definitely not. But are you worried?
Yeah, because not enough justification.
I am not worried because if they follow the standard setting procedure properly, following all the guidelines, then it is justified. Then we say we have followed the team. However, this team got in actual practice we do not use separate or different teams. We just use one panel. But then the same exam, if let's say one school uses this method, another school uses another method, and they come to a different conclusion, it's still okay because standard setting is a policy decision. It is depending on the judges, but as long as we follow a set procedure and we are careful and we take all steps to reduce error, whatever, it is still justified, even though it is producing different marks. This is a bit. This is important for you to realize. Standard setting is not a statistical method. It is a policy judgment.
Okay,
Alright?
understand. So it might differ
Okay.
from different institutions.
Yes. And then what do? We have panels of experts with specific criteria, and they make judgment by looking at either the items, meaning the questions, or looking at the performance of students, or both. So in the book it says either is test-based methods.
Semini.
Yeah. Or this one is examinee-based. Or this one is compromise. So far, is it getting a bit clearer?
Yes.
So we still have to use panels. Actually, humans, people, but they are not everyday kind of people. They are carefully selected. Okay. Why am I writing in red? Can you read in red?
Can.
Can. Oh, okay.
Not sure, but Shaf, okay.
Okay, I'm okay.
Okay. So judgment looking at items, things like Engolf, eBell, other things lah. The popular ones are Engolf and eBell. Alright. Looking at performance, things like the borderline method, the contrasting groups methods. We will discuss this quickly after this. Okay. And both, the popular one is Hofstee. Okay. Okay. So that's the first issue, first step. We select a method. Really, if we look at feasibility, we look at what exam we are looking at, the competency. So if it is multiple true false, or it's a select type examination, we will go for maybe Engolf or eBell, because this is well known, well studied, and it is easy to do. It is feasible. People can understand it, and it has been done for it has, orang kata apa, what's the thing, it has a good reputation. Okay. But if it's for an OSCE, usually we still can use an NGOF, but people prefer examinee-based methods, using the borderline methods or contrasting groups or whatever. Or so it selecting will depend on several issues. Okay, and then we select the judges. So in all methods, we need judges. We need humans, even for select type questions, right? So it gives some criteria there. They must be content experts. They must be familiar with the candidates. For example, they have been teaching in the school for, we can set the criteria, more than 5 years or whatever. So they know already in this cohort, what are examples of good students? What are examples of poor students? Okay? And then they must be able to follow instructions, because it's a group effort, and you cannot have one professor saying, I don't care, this mark, the passing mark must be 65. Because we must uphold the standard of the school. Everyone else that doesn't agree, but he says, I don't care. So this kind of people we cannot have in our committee, in the panel. They must be able to follow. They must be fair-minded. They must be able to follow instructions. They must be committed, and during the standard setting session, usually we say turn off your smartphones, or maybe just turning off is close to impossible nowadays. We just say mute it, okay, and things like that. Okay, so judges selection is important, and in the book it says that a minimum of 5 to 6 and a maximum of 10 to 12 judges. We okay. We don't want too little. Oh, sorry. 5 to 6. Too little would make the results questionable. Too many, it will be very difficult to handle. Okay.
Too many opinions.
Too many opinions. Yes. Okay. Any questions regarding selecting the judges?
So far, okay.
So far, okay.
Okay.
Number 3 is that we must have what we call as the performance category, or what we call as performance level descriptors, PLD. What is this? I'll explain to you why. Okay, basically you have judges who will look at questions, or who will look at examiners and say, if this is the question, or if this is the performance, then for example, actually, if this is the question, how many % of students will be able to answer this question? Okay, you get the idea? Am I getting clear? Let's say an MCQ question. Okay, we have this panel of judges sit down, and we will give the actual MCQ paper, the single best answer paper, and we say, okay, everyone, look at question 1 and give me your judgment. How many % of students will be able to answer question 1? So they will have to look at their experience, and they know their students, they know the ability, and someone will say, I think 60% of students will be able to answer this question. Another says, I think 50%. So we take at the end of the day, we take the average of the judges' ratings. Are you clear about that?
Just solely based on experience. Betul tak?
Yes, they look at the item. They look at they will now they have to go back to their expertise. They know the level of the students, the level of the question. They at that stage they cannot vet the question. They say, oh, this is too difficult. No, no, no. If this is the question, how many percent of students will be able to answer this correctly? Okay. That one clear? The issue is what kind of students should they base their judgment on? Should it be the good students? Should we say, please make your judgment? How many percent of good students will be able to answer this question? What will happen to the passing mark? So you have Judge A, Judge B, Judge C, Judge D, Judge E. Let's say there are 6. Judge F. So we have question 1. So we ask, in question 1, how many percent of good students will be able to answer this question? What will be you think the rating? Will be high or low?
Then rating high lah.
Pardon?
High for good student.
High, because these are good students. So he would think in his mind, what if this question is answered by Ashraf? Ashraf, I think he will be able to answer this question. Okay, so because he's thinking of all the good students. Okay, so the at the end of the day, the mean mark will be high. So there's a risk of false
Positive.
false negative.
False negative. False negative.
Because you are using good students or excellent students as a benchmark. Okay. What if I say, okay, how many for question 1? How many candidates will be able to answer this question, and you benchmark your passing mark to poor students, and therefore each of the judge will have in their mind, what if Fuad want to answer this question? Is he able to? How many percent of Fuads will be able to answer this? What will happen to the mean mark?
Lower.
It will be low. Yeah. We are going to repeat the same procedure for all questions. At the end of the day, we are going to take the mean of all these means. Do you understand? So the passing mark will be low. And there's a risk of
False positive.
False positive.
false positive. We are labeling students as competent, whereas they are actually not competent. Okay, then if yeah, beg pardon?
Dr. Urush she has a question. Will they, because she lost connection.
Will they make?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, just I got connected by the headphones. Now they have started working. In performance category, the performance level descriptors, are the judges going to make a guess over here or no?
You mean the judges?
Yeah, judges.
Yes. We wouldn't call it a guess. We will call it an estimation. Because we will ask them if this kind of question, based on your experience, you have been with students for a long time, and you know this content area, you know this level of difficulty. How many students? We ask them, so they make an estimate, but it is an informed estimate.
Okay.
Now what I'm trying to show you is that we do not make the benchmark against good students, because it will raise the passing mark high, and we do not benchmark to poor students because it will lower the passing mark. So the most logical thing to do is to benchmark it against what kind of students?
Average
Students. Yes.
How do we define average then?
What we call as borderline.
27 minus.
No. 27 is high and low. We
Okay
want
lah,
to take the borderline.
100 minus
Huh?
27, 27.
Okay. Actually, this is one of the most difficult parts in standard setting is to get the judges to be able to imagine a borderline candidate. A borderline candidate is someone technically defined as he or she has a 50-50% chance of passing or failing. If he is safe, oh my god, my pen has decided to stop working. I think the battery has run out. Uh, have you ever had this experience, Dr. Farhana?
Before start writing, I always check the battery level first.
Okay, you're right.
Uh,
Apple Pencil, yeah, it's not uh indicating at all the thing is not out of the battery. Okay, just while it's charging, so the judges we tell them if it is if it's safe, if it is a competent student, actually this one is at the very bottom level of competence. Okay, so you must imagine now we tell the judges, please think back about your students previously. There is zero. Think about those borderline candidates that you know them. Whenever they take the exam, you think this guy, I don't know whether he passed or he failed. Huh? Because sometimes they are good, sometimes they can answer, sometimes they cannot answer. They are borderline. Okay, so in terms of clinical skills, they are safe, but they are the very bottom level of safe. So this we will need to make a long discussion. Maybe half day of the workshop is focused on discussing this and making everybody is clear about what is a borderline candidate for that particular exam for that particular university. Okay. Uh, and then we say, okay, for single best answer questions, what is a borderline candidate? Okay, someone can say, okay, borderline candidate, if the scenario in the question is clear, straightforward, maybe they can answer. But if the scenario is giving some a bit um, uncommon type of presentation, they will not be able to answer. Then the others say, okay, I think I agree. So there's a lot of discussion about how can borderline candidates can answer single best answer. If it is OSCE, then they say, okay, borderline candidate, I think if they have to present, their words will be not very straightforward. And if you ask them, if very common questions, they are able to answer. But if slightly off or slightly higher level thinking, then maybe I think the borderline cannot answer. So everybody discusses and everybody come to a consensus. What is a borderline candidate behavior? So that they can benchmark each question against these borderline candidates. Is it, can you imagine?
Can. But it's
Ah,
it will be very subjective, right, Dr. Fuad?
it is. That's why I say standard setting is a policy decision. It's not a statistical decision. But then you are relying on the judgment of number one, not just one person like Ashraf, but a group, a team of persons. Number two, these are not just ordinary people. These are A, they are content experts. B, they are familiar with the teaching of this course for X number of years. 3, they are blah blah blah. 4, 5, 6, you can outline the characteristics of these judges. And we say, this is the procedure that we went through. A, first, this is what we did. B, this is what we discussed. So everything is documented. and it becomes defensible. That is the basis of standard setting. It is still judgment, it is still subjective. Okay, it's not something you punch in the numbers into the computer, you will get. No, it's not a statistical thing. Alright? Okay, so this is the issue of the borderline students. And I hope there's enough juice in my number. Number 4 is train. So anywhere when we use raters, issue of training must be there, right? So it mentions there train judges. I need to raise up my book because I cannot read. So the judges must understand the concept of standard setting. The judges must understand the procedure which is going to be done. The judges must be clear of the concept of a borderline candidate, etc., etc., etc. So training is very, very important. As with other methods where we involve raters. Okay. So we usually spend again maybe if they are familiar with the setting, just a refresher, maybe 1 hour for discussion or 2 hours. If they are fresh, perhaps we need a whole day workshop before the actual standard setting. Okay, and we tell them why are you nominated, so that they are doing it with clear idea of what is standard setting and what they're supposed to do. Okay, and we have half an hour more. So the training is quite clear cut, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. Step 5 is collect ratings. So basically, you go, let's say this is an MCQ or whatever, question 1 until how many questions you have. Okay, and you go judge by judge. Okay, judge 1, judge 2, judge 3, judge 4, judge 5 until judge X. Okay, so you ask them, okay, let's look at question 1. How many? Okay, so the instructions can differ from one method to the other. If it is engulfed with, yes, Farhana?
No, nothing.
Okay, if it is engulfed, we say, okay, look at question 1. If you have 100 borderline candidates, how many will be able to answer this question? So that's one way of asking engulf. Or we say, if you have a borderline candidate, what is the chances of them being able to answer this question? So you will get the 0 to 0.1, 0.2 until 1. Or just 1, 0, 1, 0. If they're able to answer, it's a 1. If they're not able to answer, it's a 0. Okay? It's either 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0 or 0.9, 0.7, 0.8, or it is 60%, 80%. It doesn't matter. That's engulf. So at the end of the day, you get the mean for here, until here, and you sum up all this, and you get the final mean. So this will be the passing mark.
That's what this one also based on estimation.
Yes.
Estimation.
Based on their judgment, based on their estimation. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we collect this, and actually there are software available free from the internet. Usually we use Excel. I think you can make your own Excel columns for this kind of ratings.
So if there are 100 questions, all 100 questions they need to mark
Yes, actually, that's one of the things which make panels uh, very resistant. I don't want to be a panel
Yeah.
because it's hard work. Okay, there are people who say you can sample maybe 40% of items, but frankly, when I go through the literature, I haven't come across any literature which says that you can do that. In fact, in the US, whatever, I read that if there are 200 items, they will go through 200 items. I suppose that's the fairest method lah, to really be sure about the passing mark. Okay. Okay, so this is the collect ratings. Any questions? Okay, if you look at step 6, it says there. So before that, so this is you can make this on your own even if you're good in doing Excel. So you make these columns according to how many judges you have, and at the bottom there you just auto calculate the mean, and this column here you auto calculate, you put the formula to calculate the mean of these means. You get this. If you don't want to use this Excel, you can download a free standard setting Excel, which is called the Engolf analysis tool, I think, and you will get something which already prepared. You just Google this. They will give you. Okay, and then if we have the time, I'll show you. I'll show an example of standard setting that we have done. Okay, so the 6th step is provide feedback and facilitate discussion. So if you recall this, we go through the steps and we have got the mean of all the means, right? So that is what we call as the first round passing mark. And then what happens is that we will have a look at we will go for a second round. Second round discussion is still not. Okay, we will look at the discussions, and we will go column by column, question by question. And let's say we look at question 1, and we look at the judge who made the highest mark and the judge who gave the lowest mark, or the lowest rating, the highest rating or the highest estimate and the lowest estimate. And then because we want them to sort of like agree with each other, so we have a discussion. Judge 1, why did you give 90 here? So we say, oh, in this question someone gave 90 and someone gave 40, very far apart. Okay, we will ask those who give highest marks first. Why do you give 90? So he will explain, I think because okay, and then we ask those who give the lowest marks, why do you give 40? It's very low. And then they will give their justification. Everyone else will listen. And in this step, also it is also like not recommended. Some places do it. They will show actual marks if it is available. Actually, this question, the difficulty index is 60%, meaning that 60% of questions of students are able to answer this question, and the discrimination is such and such. So they will say, oh, is that true? Then they will reconsider their judgment. Okay, and we make a second round of rating now. So judges can, but not necessarily, they can, if they feel that, yes, I think after hearing the discussion, I was a bit too strict. Or maybe after hearing the discussion, I was a bit too lenient. Or let's say, after looking at the actual difficulty and definition, I think I was a bit too strict. So they can edit their ratings in the second round. Or they say, no, I think I'm satisfied, I will put the same marks for the second round. Okay, So this is what we call as the iterative procedure. Iterative meaning you do it again and again, repeat and facilitate discussion. So you don't do it for all items. You just focus on items in which the difference is very far. Sometimes you take if more than 20% difference, or you take if more than standard deviation is more than 10 the difference. You have your own criteria. You can do that. If the questions all the judges are giving almost similar ratings, then you proceed. You don't have a second round for those questions. The aim of the discussion is so that the agreement will be more. And step 7. Yeah, sure.
Just to ask, during the judges who wants to perform the performance level descriptor, so they cannot sit to each other and they cannot discuss about it lah, because we want to get their own, just their own opinions, right? So during the discussion, then they can sit together with others.
Okay. Good question. If it's actually face-to-face procedure, before COVID, they can sit in one room. They sit around one table. Each of them have a copy of the question booklet. Okay. But after the training, after the refresher training, blah, 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 we say, okay, now we're doing the actual rating. Okay, open your booklets, look at question 1. Question 1, okay, please give your ratings. Okay, so they do it independently. And usually we will give a special form where they write their ratings for question 1 and they will pass to the facilitator. The facilitator will get the form and put it in the laptop. So they do not know what other people are doing. Okay, if it is yes. But during the actual rating, we give the answer. If we don't give the answer, then they will impose their own standards. They say, I cannot answer this question, therefore, no. We always remind them, please judge against a borderline student. Okay. So after that, then we can reveal what other people are doing, what other people are giving the mark. We can project on the screen the Excel, and they can see, oh, I was a bit too stringent here. Oh, the others are giving, most of them are giving this mark. I was the one giving this mark. Okay, and then we can give them the item analysis results or whatever, and then we go for the second round. Okay. Because at the end of the day, we want people to come close. The ratings should be closer. Okay, so far so good.
Okay.
All right. Okay, then we will have a second round passing mark, isn't it? So actually we can decide either we want to take the first round or the second round passing mark as the actual passing mark, or we take the mean of the 2 marks. Usually we take the second round. And step 7 is evaluate. It's very important. Evaluate the procedure, because this is also an assessment kind of thing. So evaluation and giving validity evidence is very important. So at each step, especially the training step, whatever, we must evaluate. For example, during the training, after the training, we give them questionnaires, or either paper questionnaires or online questionnaires for them to rate the training. Is it good? Am I clear about it? There's a good example in page 91. Okay, of a questionnaire. So if you're interested to do the standard setting, you can sort of copy this questionnaire. Okay, actually, Kane, our friend Kane, who bought the validity, he has mentioned there are 3 types of validity evidence during standard setting: procedural, internal evidence, internal evidence, as well as external evidence. Yeah. So procedural is the steps that you go through, the training, whatever, and you give rating for each training, you give questionnaires, etc., etc. Internal is like the inter-rater reliability and the standard error of measurement. You also calculate standard error of measurement, etc. External would be things like what is mentioned here, comparison to other standard setting methods, and so on and so forth. Okay, so evaluation of the procedure is also very critical, especially in the report that you produce later. Actually, historically, I think one I understood from reading the various literature, this standard setting became established in the West because of increasing litigation. When you know, in the West, candidates can sue
So the
if they're not satisfied.
yeah.
They can sue the college, they can sue the school. I failed. Actually, I should pass. And therefore, you know, when you go to court, they will go very detailed. And among the things they ask is, how did you reach at this passing mark? The candidate got 49.5. Your passing mark is 50. And therefore you decided to fail him. Why 50? So this procedure of standard setting became very important, especially the documentation. If you Google about reports, standard setting reports, you will find the reports are very detailed, very thick. They even record the discussion. Okay, who said what and things like this, and this is the so to make themselves more defensible, the passing mark. So and they give the evaluation and so on and so forth. Okay, evaluate procedures, and the last one is provide results, consequences, and validity evidence to final decision makers. Okay, in this step, okay, provide evidence, results, consequences, and validity evidence to final decision makers, meaning that let's say the panel arrived at the passing mark of 52.5, and the research have shown that typically when you do standard setting, it almost always be higher than the traditional standard, the traditional passing mark. How high or that depends. However, when you actually give judgment, give opportunity for people to make judgment, and you give the actual questions, etc., etc., it tends to be higher. Okay, let's say it's 52.5. So this is then presented to the final decision maker. Okay, so the standard setting panel is just the policy make. They recommend the passing mark. Okay, but often the panels are also the decision makers. So
About to ask them.
yeah, okay. Actually, ideally, the lecturers who go for the standard setting panel, they shouldn't be the ones who are who vetted the questions or wrote the questions. They will be biased. However, in practical situation, we cannot avoid because we don't have that many people.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we give, let's say, 52.5, and the decision making body will balance between false positive versus false negative. Okay. If they say 52.5, then they will measure against the actual results, and they see, oh, if you use 52.5, 30% of our candidates will fail. Can we accept that? and this is a high stakes or low stakes. They will discuss everything. Okay, this is high stakes. And I've heard about some institutions. They say 30% will fail. That's too low because they expect more to fail. Okay, because they have high standards about their exams. Huh? Okay, so this decision making body will decide whether they want to accept the risk of false negative or accept the risk of false positive or accept the risk of false negative. If they say this is high stakes and we are producing specialists, blah 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 blah, then we favor false negative. We say it is better to label candidates as incompetent compared to labeling them falsely that they are competent. Okay, therefore, strategies would include 52.5, then they say add one standard error of measurement. So it will become, let's say the SEM is 0.7. So now the passing mark will become 53.3. Betul ke? I'm very poor in this
53.2.
0.2. Okay. So it now becomes higher. If let's say this is undergraduate and say 30% fail or pity the student, blah 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 blah, they have to make a decision. Then we say we will accept the risk of false positive. It's okay during housemanship. They will still be trained. They will still be under supervision, etc. etc. Argue. They will argue during the meeting. And say okay. Then we say 52.5 minus 1 SEM. So now it becomes lower. So that is not up to the that is up to the decision making body. So the standard setting is not a final step. People can still to the extent that you can still say we will do again standard setting. We call a different panel now. So if previously we don't give the marks, the item analysis results, etc., now we will do again with fresh panel, and we also provide the item analysis results. Up to that stage also is allowable. What is important is that whatever step we take is justified, is documented, and we can show that we have taken all the necessary steps. Okay, so I think I've covered all the important basics of standard setting. However, the actual way in which we get the marks is a bit different. I do not know whether we still can absorb at this stage. What do you all think?
Meaning absorb to make the changes or us now?
I'm looking at the students. Can you still go on?
Can?
Do you want to elaborate on the 7 methods for setting performance, is it?
Not elaborate, just roughly go through.
Oh, okay. Can.
Okay, so we go on for a while, huh? You don't mind if we overshoot 1 o'clock?
It's okay. I'm okay. Ashraf, okay?
Okay, so Dr. Urush, I hope you're okay.
Yes, I'm okay with it.
All right, okay. So far, everybody's following?
I want to ask.
Yes, please.
A question
Yes.
about Enghoff method. I've forgotten, but I'm not sure. Is PLAB exam that one in UK?
I think I'm not sure. I think I strongly expect that they do standard setting also in the PLAB. But I'm not sure. Oh, they do Enghoff. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you.
But the standard setting is very well established in the West, and almost all exams they rely on standard setting. Okay. Let's go briefly. So now we're talking about the exam. What's the term? exam based or item based, meaning we look at the questions. Okay, and this can be for select response or constructed response. Okay, so what I have described is basically the NGOF. NGOF is one of the oldest methods. Okay, basically you look at the questions one by one. And you look at the judge until X. Okay, so you have this grid, and so you go for question one. What is the rating? Then you get the mean rating here. And question two, you get the mean rating here. Then you get the mean of the means here. Okay, and you will read there are many types of NGOF, modified NGOF, the traditional NGOF, whatever. There's an NGOF family. Okay, but the basic idea is that looking at the items and making a judgment of the how many borderline candidates are able to answer that question. So either you state that 1 or 0, percentage or chance or whatever, that's still NGOF. And you do it first round and second round. Okay, and what else in NGOF? So if it is essay, you look at the essay and give a rating. Let's say the essay mark is 10, total is 10. So we ask the judges, okay, if a borderline candidate, how many marks out of 10 will he be can he get in this type of question? So about the same thing, same idea. Okay, and you can also do it for clinicals, although it's not that common. What you need to do, let's say for an OSCE, you give the actual OSCE question to the judges and say, okay, if this is this question, this station is done by a borderline candidate, how many marks out of the 10 marks can the candidate get? Okay, so similar kind of thinking. So that's NGOF. So the next one is EBEL. I cannot write. EBEL is if you look at the description, what is different is that when you give the items to the judges will give the ratings regarding the performance, as well as decide whether this item or this question is asking something essential or something important or something acceptable. Essential is the most is the highest rating, or maybe they will just rate it as EIA, essential. So you have to give a description. What is essential? Essential is must know or good for patient care. If they don't know this, they will not be safe, for example. Important is like this. Okay, acceptable is like this. So they give these three columns. Okay, at the end of the day, what you do is that the ratings given will be put in a matrix. In one axis is the level of difficulty. So the items rated high marks in one column. Second column is middle marks. Third column is the lowest marks. Okay, and the columns then broken up in another axis according to the relevance. Essential items, important items, acceptable items, and then you get the mean for each of the cells. Now you have 9 cells, right? Can you imagine? Okay, I'll try to see. Okay, So after the rating, we collect easy, middle, difficult. Okay, this is based on their ratings of the judges.
Okay.
Okay,
But
and
for
then
the number of the rating for easy, medium, and hard, it's fixed. It's not as the other.
it's up to you. Maybe if you say rated 0 to, let's say, 40%. No, it should be the other way. This should be here. Huh? 0 to 40 is difficult. 41 to 60% is middle. Then 61 to 100 is easy.
Okay. We the one that decided what's the marks.
You can, for example, if you look at the table in 6.3, they give easy is 0.8 to 0.99. Medium is 0.45 to 0.7. I think this is not hard and fast. You can decide on your own.
Okay.
Okay, and then the items which are easy, we break down into three groups. The ones which are essential, the ones which has been rated as important, and the ones which have been rated as acceptable. Then and only then do we take the mean for each row. We say what is the weighted mean for the essential column, the essential row. Then the weighted mean for the important row and the acceptable row, and then we get the mean of everything, the mean of the three means. So you see Abel is a bit more cumbersome. It has a few more extra steps. And I suspect that is why it's not so popular. Because not only you have to ask the judge to rate, the judges have to rate two things: percentage of student getting the thing correct, borderline candidates, as well as the relevance. And then it's not a simple matter of putting it into the Excel and calculating. No, we have to take and arrange the items into their groups. Okay. Then you get the same thing lah. You take the mean. Well, you can still do two rounds, etc. But as you can see, Abel has another layer, another few more steps to be done. Okay. On another way you look at it, Abel is more detailed. You are looking at the judgments in the sense that these are the ratings for the essential questions. These are the ratings for the important questions. These are the ratings for acceptable questions. So it's more justified, I suppose. Some extra layer of justification. So we've covered the the item-based standard setting. And another way is that looking at the actual performance of candidates. Actual performance of candidates, the only difference here is that we do not select judges, but the actual examiners become the judges. Okay? So, let's say in your OSCE, you have, I cannot, still cannot write. Okay. For example, in OSCE, you have your rating form in which you have your domains, and you give them rating here, you give them rating here, you have them rating here, and you get numerical mark, right? So now what you do is you ask the examiners to also rate them either pass, borderline, or fail. You ask the examiners, not the special judges, the actual examiners. So this is one mark. This is another rating. Either pass, borderline, or fail. And then you plot. Okay? No. Okay. So in the borderline method, borderline group, you just take candidates rated as borderline Okay, let's say in 100 students, uh, 30 students were labeled as borderline. Okay, you must imagine now because my pencil is a pencil failure at the critical moment. So I learned my lesson. I must make sure the pen is charged. Okay, so you follow now. So we have, let's say in the OSCE, each station, the rating has numerical marks and also a global mark of either pass, borderline or fail. Ashraf boleh imagine?
Yeah.
Okay, Farhana?
My connection lost just now. I missed the part, when we going to the example here, the OSCE.
Okay, we are now looking at examinee based methods. And usually this is done for observational methods such as OSCE, long case, short case. Okay?
Okay.
And to do this, for each station, raters must rate two things. One is the numerical rating, right? So for the rating, you have looking at the domains. Each domain is either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next domain also 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Then the other domain also 1 or 2 or 3 or 5. Let's say there are 3 domains, right?
Okay.
So he will get a numerical mark maybe out of 15, 10. And then apart from this numerical rating, candidates raters must also give a global rating for the candidates. This candidate is pass, clear pass, or borderline or fail. Okay. So this rating, you must tell the raters do not go by the numerical marks. That is why we discourage them from adding up the marks. You just look at the candidates as a whole and give your opinion. This is a pass candidate or borderline candidate or failed candidate.
But then
Sometimes
there must be some like they give low marks, but suddenly this is a very excellent candidate. It's like
of course. You don't expect that kind of thing. However, if let's say he gave marks for all components because he does everything, but something you still feel because you have been teaching for a lot of number of years, you still feel I'm not comfortable to pass this student, although he has done all the things that he's supposed to do, but maybe he was a bit rough or maybe he was a bit rude or whatever. You instead of pass, I will put this as borderline. Okay, so he can do that. Raters can do that. Okay, so at the end of the day, you get students with their numerical marks and their global marks. Okay, so if you use a borderline standard setting method, what you do is you extract all candidates who were rated as borderline and you get their mean marks. And that will be the passing mark for that OSCE. You just get the borderline candidate marks. Can you imagine?
yes.
Okay. The other method is that instead of taking the borderline candidates, you get the candidates marked as pass and the candidates marked as fail. And you plot their results. Okay? So you expect to get
Just now it's called
borderline group. Borderline group. Yeah. Okay.
Borderline group method.
Yes. So this second method is that you don't take the borderline group. You take those rated as pass and those rated as fail. And you plot their marks. The frequency distribution curve. Oh dear, how I wish I can write this. Okay, never mind. you can look at the graph in, there's no graph here. When you plot the two groups, you will find that the two, or rather you hope that the two frequency distribution curves will intersect, will overlap with each other. The tail, yeah, the tail of one curve will overlap with the tail of another curve. Okay, and the passing mark will be where the two tails intersect between the pass group and the fail group. That is the contrasting groups method. That was actually these methods you can read in the. Oh, actually there are graphs there in page 101.
Yeah. No.
Dr. Urosh, I will give you the links. Don't worry. Okay.
Okay,
But okay. So you can see in the figure 6.5 is the contrasting groups, and you take the passing mark where the two graphs intersect, and actually you can move it. If you feel that you want a higher mark, you will take in figure 6.6. You can move the line to the tail of the fail group rather than the tail of the pass group. So this is again consideration of false negative, false positive. Okay. And actually there is another method, borderline regression. Borderline regression, you plot the marks. This is either 0, 1 or 2 regarding this is fail, this is borderline, this is pass, and the frequency of marks is here. Okay, so you will get something like this. Okay, because you will expect the pass students will have higher marks, right? You can do this in Excel. Okay, you have this column, students, candidates, number 1, number 2, number 3 until down, and what are their global rating, and what are their overall marks, numerical marks. You select this both, and you go to make scatter plot. And in the scatter plot, when the Excel wants to make the scatter plot, you tick, there's a box there, include formula, regression formula. So it will tell you, it will make a nice line, and the formula is y equals something x plus 4.5, for example. Then you replace this x, you replace the x with 1 because you want the borderline. In the formula, you replace the x with the number 1. So you can have one, there's going to be one constant times 1 plus 4.5, and that will be the cutoff point at borderline. So this is what we call the borderline regression. This is the trend nowadays, because we take all groups, the fail groups, the borderline groups, and the passing groups, and ask the Excel to calculate the regression line, and we now take the point where the line intersect the borderline group. Okay, so this is the borderline regression method. But again, we can only do this when the candidates are enough. If, let's say, I have an Oski, Ashraf, and Farhana, then I cannot do standard setting lah. Maybe I will do an Engulf standard setting. I look at the question and I imagine if borderline candidate, what will be the mark? Then I apply it for Farhana and Ashraf.
Any specific number for enough student for this method?
Yes, sir.
For examinee related methods, frankly I haven't come across, but I would imagine that the higher, I think, I don't know, I cannot give, but I wouldn't trust it very much if it is less than maybe 30, similar like atom analysis. Okay. All right. So basically, we have examinee centered, we have item centered, and the compensatory. No compensatory. What you call it? I'm also getting the compromise standards, meaning you have components of both. And of course, the most popular is Hofstee. Hofstee, you look at, it's difficult because I cannot draw. You look at the table 6.2. So rather than judging each question and making judgments about each question, the rater rates or give an approximation of 4 things. One is the minimum and maximum acceptable passing scores. Okay, we asked the judges to look at overall the whole questions and ask them to estimate what would be the minimum passing mark that you think is suitable. Minimum meaning at least you expect students to get these marks for this kind of questions. And you ask them to also rate at most what would be the passing mark that you expect from this kind of questions overall. That's one. So there are 2 ratings there, minimum and maximum passing marks. And then also failure rates. Looking at all these questions, what would you expect to be the minimum failing rate? I would expect this is very easy. So I don't think the minimum failing rate would be what you give, maybe 10%, 5%. Okay, as well as the maximum. How many at most you think will fail this kind of question? So they look at it generally, not individual questions. Okay, so you plot that like in figure 6.2, and then you plot the actual frequency distribution graph of the actual scores. So you need that data from the actual exam. Okay. So you plot it against the 2 groups of ratings, and the passing mark is derived. You connect the two intersections there, as you see, and where it intersects the frequency distribution curve, that's the passing mark. So this method is good for estimating overall performance, but usually they do it just as a backup to compare against a specific method like an Engulf or an Abel, because if you do just this method alone, it is thought as to be a lower standard because you're just looking at the overall. Okay, so one of the critiques against Hofstee is that it is not suitable for high stakes exams. So people usually do it for a backup procedure. Okay, therefore you see now some methods is nicely summarized in table 6.5. Some methods require exam data. Some methods do not require exam data. Some method requires expert observers. Some do not. Some just have judges. Okay. And some are done before exam. Some are done after exam. Some are done during exam. So nicely summarized there. So I think that's a good summary of the methods lah. I don't think you are in the mood to see the actual one example of the Excel. Maybe later we will, when we have the chance, I can show. Or maybe you look at the NGOF analysis tool. Or yeah, the NGOF analysis tool. You try to download. You try to Google this. It's an Excel. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and you play around with it to see how things are. Okay, it's I use this recently. We had a standard setting trial for the Conjoint Board of Radiology, Malaysian Conjoint Board of Radiology. So I used this NGOF analysis tool, and we did it online because of the COVID. Okay. Sorry for the extension of the time. We are 21 minutes past 1 o'clock. Any questions? Just to share with you, for USM, we do standard setting even for undergraduate, but just for the final professional. Not the semester exams. So we do it every year, and we do NGOF for MCQ, multiple true false, single best answer, as well as the scenario based questions. It's something like short essay question, and we use borderline regression method for OSCE, long case and short case. So we just use for final year professional. I think I'm not sure of other undergraduate programs in Malaysia, but I'm sure that what I'm sure is that the accrediting bodies are starting to ask about standard setting nowadays. Are you doing standard setting? Are you doing standard setting? So this becoming this coming over to Malaysia now. Okay, I pity you guys. Sorry,
No, thank you for spending time.
Because I remember I can observe my daughter after one full day of online session, and towards the end of the day she'll be so depressing. Any questions? Any burning questions? Please have a look at the summary table if you want to understand.
Okay. Untuk later you will share this recording, right?
Hopefully.
Few part lost connection just now, so
I see. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Ashraf, Farhana, Dr. Urush? Dr. Urush, I think you are familiar with this standard setting, right?
Yeah, I am. I just wanted to ask, like, who is going to decide that which method is best, NGOF, IBEL, or
okay. Usually they will fall back to can our medical education department advise us which to do. I will share you why we use NGOF in our school, because of the long history of its usage. Is quite established. It has been studied. The method is proven to be acceptable, feasible, and easy to understand, and the marks are quite robust. So that's our justification. So any method you use, it needs to be justified. I'm not saying that you must use NGOF as well. So our justification is that those things. And for borderline, for OSCE and long case, short case, we use borderline regression. because we say we it's easier to get the actual marks because this is observed. We tried actually one time using Engov, but then the judges are saying that actually we cannot imagine because this is actual they actually do. And also the literature suggested that borderline regression or borderline method is better for clinical methods, clinical exams. So we have to document all those justifications, and I think then we are quite okay. So if you whatever it is, you have a look at the literature and you look at your lecturers, which one they are more familiar with, which one they. So you reach a compromise and you reach a decision. Then as long as you can justify, I think it's okay. So
Okay.
what are the methods you use, Dr. Urush?
Here, they don't use such method for standard settings. They have just only pass-fail criteria that they have to take 60%.
I see. So yeah, so the issue is how do you arrive at the 60%, right?
Yeah.
So if you use standard setting, you have a justification. We the passing mark is 60% because the. But if you use standard setting, then the passing mark won't be 60% every year. Sometimes it goes 61, sometimes it goes down to 59, because depends on the quality of your questions and other things. Yeah.
That's in our fellowship exams over in Pakistan, they follow standard setting depending
Okay.
on the marks. But in medical schools, the Pakistan Medical Commission has just given like they have to
I see.
secure
Okay. Okay.
64%
Fine.
marks or
Fine.
otherwise they will be failed.
What methods do you use for your postgraduate?
Then no, there's no method.
No, you mentioned just now you're using
Yes.
standard setting.
That's only for a fellowship exam.
Fellowship. So what method are they using?
I think they're using Angkor method.
Engov method. Yeah, Engov is quite popular actually because it's easy to understand and easy to carry out.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. If no, then all the best. I think that's all our series of classes.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will give you a good or adequate basics for reading further and studying further and looking up further the detailed implementation and the theory and whatever. And when you read the book now, you understand better, inshallah. Okay.
InsyaAllah.
And I don't think this is enough, whatever it is, isn't it? So
Yeah.
just as a starting point. Huh? Okay.
Can get a bigger picture.
Yes, can get a picture. Actually, assessment is very important for us Muslims, because we believe in the final assessment one day. Okay, and it should be a steering effect for us how we behave here on this world, isn't it?
We have
Yes.
more sample.
So assessment. Yes, because we believe that the assessment will be very valid, very fair.
I wanted to ask Dr. Fawad, is this
Yes.
do you have online version of this book?
Ebook, yes, there's ebook. I think Ashraf and Farhana has purchased the ebook. Am I right?
Yeah,
Yes.
for the second edition. First edition,
edition.
they have PDF. Second edition need to buy.
Okay, can you send me the link so I can buy from there?
Sure. I'll PM you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So that's all. Any shortcomings, I will ask for your forgiveness. I'm sorry if I over joke or whatever. Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fuad,
alright,
for making it
okay.
clear.
All right. Okay. Okay. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.